Our top story on Newsbreak, South Florida is now under a tropical storm warning as a system bringing a lot of rain approaches. The forecast is ahead, plus these stories.
A bipartisan bill, school safety.
Yeah, there's mental health issues, but there are mental health issues in every country.
But will the measure address guns? Race to rescue a choking baby.
It's like, oh my goodness, like, breathe, child.
Inside a Florida restaurant. And 70 years as queen.
So it's the atmosphere, and it brings the nation together, doesn't it?
But all eyes were on one who wasn't on the balcony. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Amanda Gray.
I'm Michelle Morris. Today is June 3rd, 2022.
Live from the South Florida Media Network's Biscayne-based studios in North Miami, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
The forecast first this morning as South Florida prepares for tropical downpours. Landfill is expected on Florida's west coast, but most of the rain is ahead of the storm.
CNN's Gene Norman has this morning's new forecast cone.
All eyes on the Gulf of Mexico as a developing system could become the first named tropical storm, and it is heading right for Florida this weekend. Let's take a look at what's going on as far as watches and warnings. These are the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Again, it's mainly the southwest part of Florida from Fort Myers down to Key West that is under a tropical storm warning. That means if you live in these areas, be ready for heavy rain, along with a couple of strong wind gusts in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range. But we anticipate that this system will be upgraded from potential tropical cyclone number 1 to tropical storm Alex sometime later this Friday afternoon. And then it will likely make a landfall sometime during the early to mid part of the afternoon on Saturday. Not expecting it to become a stronger storm than what we have right now. Again, max winds when it makes landfall somewhere in the 40 to maybe 50 mile an hour range, and then the system will quickly exit out into the Atlantic. Now, the heavy rains will start to arrive later on tonight, and they're really going to pick up by Saturday morning. We're looking for a very soggy day. Again, the potential for flooding along with a couple of those stout wind gusts, and then the system will move out of the picture. As far as the rainfall, we could be looking at anywhere from 6 to 8 to possibly 10 inches of rain here from south of Orlando all the way down to Key West. That includes West Palm, includes Naples, and it certainly includes Miami. So watch out for flooding in these areas. Also, storm surge could be anywhere from 1 to 3 feet in the southwest part of Florida. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to keep up with us as we update on the storm in the Gulf.
In the wake of multiple mass shootings nationwide, President Biden is addressing the nation on what he believes the next step should be. The president is calling on Congress to work together and produce bipartisan gun reform laws, stressing the need for action now. Yet, some people like Manuel Oliver, the father of Parkland shooting victim Jaquan Oliver, feels this messaging is not enough.
And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them from 18 to 21. Strengthen background checks. Enact safe storage law and red flag laws. Repeal the immunity that protects gun manufacturers from liability. Address the mental health crisis.
You don't either ban assault weapons, which I believe it's something that we do right now, or raise the age. Because those are not two things that go in the same level of results.
Lawmakers are expected to address the mass shooting legislation when the Senate returns to the next session next week.
Some elected officials blame mental health illness for recent mass shootings, but as Nicole Castañeda from our DC Bureau reports, mental health experts find no correlation between mental health and violence.
According to the Gun Violence Archive's 233 mass shootings have happened in the U.S. in the last 6 months. Politicians blame this issue on mental health, but experts say there's no correlation between mental health and violence.
Mental illness and school safety are what we need to target.
Teenagers acting out, pushing the boundaries, and getting into trouble is not new. Kids have always gotten into scuffles with each other. That's a tale as old as time. What is new is that they now have access to handguns and firearms that leave behind bodies instead of bruises and bruised egos.
With much talk about mass shootings, student in clinical psychology Natalia Costa from Nebraska disagrees that there should automatically be a connection between the two.
What we are implying is that people who struggle with any type of mental health issues are probably violent, and that's not correct at all. Actually, people who struggle with mental health issues are more likely to be victims of violence.
As the Institute of Health Metrics evaluation showed, countries like El Salvador, Colombia, and Guatemala, violence and drug trafficking are prevalent compared to other countries with developed economies. None of them have nearly as many firearm deaths as the U.S.
And yeah, there's mental health issues, but there are mental health issues in every country. Don't tell me that Americans are thousands of times more mentally ill than people in other countries. There's only one difference, and that is that this country is awash in guns.
People in Uvalde, Texas, challenged President Biden to do something. The National Alliance of Mental Illness says that 63% of the population that have mental illness hasn't received therapy. Although politicians are pointing this issue, there's a lot of questions to why they haven't done anything about it by raising funds. Reporting for the South Florida Media Network from Washington, D.C., Nicole Castañeda.
A Florida mother is thanking Ocala police officers after they saved the life of her week-old son. Alicia Schaff says her son Killian, who was born prematurely, began to choke as she began feeding him. She called police officers Hannah Peterson and Mike Collin, jumped into action as soon as they arrived at the scene, patting the baby's back until he opened his eyes. Patterson expressed her joy at being able to save Killian.
And we were just like, wow, like we really did that. Like we really saved this kid. And you know, to see how many people are appreciative of us, it makes me feel good to be in this profession.
Killian's mom says she was deeply grateful for the officers who saved her miracle baby.
The Marlins showing off one of the best young pitchers in baseball.
That's still ahead, and so is this story.
If a natural disaster shows up at your doorstep, you can't just turn it away. That's why it's important to prepare for emergencies before they
So it's the atmosphere, and it brings the nation together, doesn't it?
The Queen is bowing out of her first appearance today after a very active first day of celebrations. The United Kingdom coming together to recognize her 70 years on the throne. Newsbreak will be back in just 2 minutes.
If a natural disaster shows up at your doorstep, you can't just turn it away. That's why it's important to prepare for emergencies before they show up. Go to ready.gov/plan to find the tools and tips you need. And make a plan today.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
A sighting this morning of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Harry and Meghan are in London for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, but were not seen publicly during yesterday's day one. They were at a church service at the cathedral this morning. It's an event the Queen skipped after a busy day yesterday.
The celebrations is to honor her 70 years on the throne.
It's really to salute Her Majesty for her service, but also it's the atmosphere, and it brings the nation together, doesn't it, for our wonderful Queen, who's such a role model for us.
Today marks day 2 of celebration for Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee, a time where the people of the United Kingdom come together and honor the Queen's 70th year on the throne. The Queen ascended to the throne at the age of 25, and now, at 96 years old, not only is she the first British monarch to celebrate 70 years of service, she is also the longest living. The 4-day bank holiday consists of many traditional festivities, such as the historic Troop in the Colour military ceremony, as well as the iconic balcony appearance at the Buckingham Palace to watch the Royal Air Force fly over.
I've also been watching on the television, but the atmosphere is fantastic, so got to be here.
Yesterday on the balcony was a lineup of all the working royals and some of their children. Although in attendance, this did not include the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan. The pair stepped down as working members of the royal family in 2020 and relocated to the United States. In decades, there have been many changes in the monarchy, from the modernization of the Commonwealth to the death of Princess Diana, in which the Queen Elizabeth withstood with her now late husband, Prince Philip, of over 70 years, who passed last year. With 2 more days of celebration still ahead, there are many public events and community activities for the people of UK to enjoy and reflect on the Queen's 70-year reign.
In a report yesterday, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have extended the lease for another year on their cottage outside of London, even though they live full-time in California. Later this week, they will celebrate the first birth of their daughter, Lilibet, who is named after the Queen.
Marlins fans have a lot to be happy about this morning, including a young pitcher with one of the lowest ERAs in baseball. The team took on the San Francisco Giants yesterday, and Marlins pitcher Sandy Alcantara pitched a shutout. The Marlins took an early lead and added 2 more runs in the 6th inning. They went on to win with a final score of 3-0.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Michelle Morris.
I'm Amanda Gray. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.